Perhaps the worst part about Oklahoma's 26-14 loss to number 21 Ole Miss at the Grove is that Oklahoma felt like it had opportunities to win this football game. This was not the blowout that, number 18 Mississippi, not number 21 Mississippi. It was not the blowout that I thought it might be, given what Oklahoma didn't have and the changes that were going on for Oklahoma. It is the 7th different starting offensive line combination in 8 games for the Sooners. I would make the argument that the 5 best wide receivers on the roster are all injured and could not play against Ole Miss. You have Jackson Arnold making a consecutive start, great, but with a new play caller on the road at a place that is tough and against a team that has to win this game. The things that weren't going well for Ole Miss is they didn't have Trey Harris's services, who is the most productive wide receiver in the SEC coming into this one. But even so, it looked like the defense at Oklahoma was playing pretty damn well for the first half and change against Ole Miss and Jackson Dart. Didn't stop Jackson Dart from going 22 of 30 for 311 yards with a TD, but they did a great job of really trying to keep a lid on Ole Miss's ability to run the football, as Ole Miss was held to just 69 rushing yards. Like Henry Parrish Jr., who's been pretty great from scrimmage, over 100 yards on average, had basically been bottled up. But what it came back down to was turnovers once again and sacks. There are 2 turnovers by Oklahoma. Taylor Tatum, who is a very fast, true freshman tailback, man. I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it. That boy put the ball on the carpet, and they keep putting him back there to give him the ball, put the ball on the carpet. And if you're talking to me about Taylor Tatum versus Tyree Walker, I know what decision I'm making on that one, man. I'm going to keep the guy who was running over people as a walk-on last year instead of letting him go to Wisconsin, where he went for 198 in one game. This while Javonte Barnes is kind of sort of coming into form the way that we thought. We haven't really seen much from him. We haven't seen much from that running back room whatsoever. And Oklahoma's good on third down, man. I mean, look, it's ranks damn near dead last in third down conversions. They went 8 of 18. They just couldn't keep the quarterback upright, which, again, offensive line is sorry. 9 sacks. Good grief, man. Both teams were penalized heavily. 7 for 71 for Oklahoma and 7 for 94 for Ole Miss. And Oklahoma, again, was able to move the football. 24 first downs in this one, man. I kept thinking to myself, this defense deserves a functional offense. And if Ole Miss doesn't score those 13 points and Oklahoma goes scoreless in the third quarter, we might be thinking about a different fourth quarter. As it was, Ole Miss was able to get 3 more points on the board, and they got a really gritty win for themselves. But this is an Oklahoma team that cannot score for the life of them. Not in this conference, at least. I mean, look, they scored more points against Tennessee than they did against Ole Miss, but it was 15 against Tennessee and 14 against Ole Miss. And, of course, against South Carolina, didn't even get in the double digits. You got to 9. Got outscored by the South Carolina defense 14-9. And then got beat by Texas 34-3. You got Maine coming up here, right? And that's a gimme game, and Oklahoma probably gets to 5-4. But right now, there's not a whole hell of a lot of difference between USC and Oklahoma, which is wild to think about, but also makes a lot of sense. 2 blue blood programs in new conferences against new opponents, traveling in ways they've never had to travel before. Both have terribly flawed offensive lines. They got a better tailback group in Quentin Joyner and Woody Marks, and Miller Moss has been a better quarterback than anything that Oklahoma's had back there. And, of course, they're healthy at wide receiver. They got Zachariah Branch over there. So, if anything, you expect USC to be that much further ahead of Oklahoma. But the reason I'm comparing them is because that's what we're going to do, right? Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables. You could make the argument that Lincoln Riley's move to USC has not necessarily helped USC, and it certainly hasn't really helped Oklahoma. Does Oklahoma feel better about the guy that they got? Yes. But they would like to win some football games, and they like to do it with the functional options. I mean, we're talking about Brent Venables having to say it into a microphone that the offense has been an abomination this year, and that's why he had to fire the play caller. And as much as I know other people were upset with Seth Luttrell's play calling, hell, I was upset with Seth Luttrell's play calling, I understood the reasoning for why that guy became the offensive coordinator in the first place. A, Jeff Lebby took a job as head coach at Mississippi State. That's one. B, he had a relationship with Jackson Arnold. C, Jackson Arnold played well against a really good Arizona team in the Alamo Bowl last year. Finally, you really, really think that Dylan Gabriel is going to the NFL. He doesn't go to the NFL, goes to Oregon. Now they're the number one team in the country. Just a bad look all the way around, but you got to do something, right? So somebody got to get fired. It's Seth Luttrell. The thing that I would say about all of this is going back to the front of this segment. He can't make people healthy. And I'm really beginning to ask questions of what the strength and conditioning program is looking like at Oklahoma when you got all these injuries to these dudes. In particular, a guy like Deion Burks, who feels carved from granite and is having soft tissue injuries that had him missing multiple games. Another dude that can take the top off defense, Andrew Anthony, not there. Nick Anderson, not there. We keep going here, man. So there isn't one thing that Oklahoma does really well offensively. If anything, the things that we would want it to do well or even think about doing well, block and tackle, can't really do that, right? At times, it looks like the safeties and cornerbacks at Oklahoma are overwhelmed, but then I got to remind people that Ole Miss receiving core is one of the best in the country. And this is, again, they don't have Trey Harris, but they did have Caden Prescorn, who's really, really outstanding. And they got other guys they could throw the ball to. Add to that, Ole Miss spent $10 million on a roster, right, to win today because they want to make the college football playoff right now. That's the plan. The plan was always to make it this year when there are 12 teams. And they still got an opportunity to do that. They just got to win every game they play from here on out because they can't afford another loss. For Oklahoma, you're trying to get to 6 wins here. Now, depending on how this Alabama-Missouri game goes, because you're going to play both Alabama and Missouri if you're Oklahoma, you might feel better about beating up on Missouri than you do Alabama, but both of those programs are good. And then at the end, you got LSU, who is also good and is going to be playing A&M later tonight to see who is the number one in the SEC, having been undefeated in SEC play. For OU, though, this has got to be about finding out where your bones are, who are the guys that at the bottom of the heap can make this happen for you. Guys like Danny Stutzman, who felt like he's been quiet but still is like third in the SEC in tackles. Guys like Peyton Bowen, guys like Billy Bowman. Who are the guys you're going to lean on? And then let's find out who the younger players are that you can lean into. Like, I really did get a kick out of a couple of things that I thought went unnoticed when we're talking about what Oklahoma was doing or not doing. And good on the broadcast team for pointing this out. Bauer Sharp's a guy. He's one of those guys that you can lean on. 8 catches for 53 yards. I did like seeing Jacob Jordan enter the game as a Jackson Arnold security blanket. I've said this for years. The guys that are on the scout team, taking advantage of playing the scout team with a talented quarterback, usually turn out to be players because they get to understand that guy and that guy gets to understand them. And then all of a sudden, you've got dudes coming out of the woodwork where you were developing them in a way that most people just don't think about. You don't think about developing your preferred walk-on, Gavin Freeman, into a player because that's just not what we do, right? We go to the 4-star, 5-star that you've been keeping back there and you decide, oh, yeah, that's got to be the guy. Again, I'm looking at a guy like Taylor Tatum and I'm going, why? I don't. I need somebody to tell me why we don't see more Sam Franklin. I need somebody to tell me why we trust Javonte Barnes as much as we do, or is that out of sheer necessity? And then, again, I thought one of the things that just isn't going to get pointed out because why would it? Jackson Arnold didn't throw the football to the other team, okay? 22 of 31, 71% completion percentage for 182 yards, 2 TDs. Cool. He's still got to take off and run with the ball when you don't see it there. I hope that comes, that settles and he gets to work through the offense. But on the other hand, how are you going to work through the offense if you don't know the offensive line is going to be able to block for you? And you don't know those dudes, and those dudes don't know you because it's a different offensive line combination. It's just frustrating is what it is. And it's going to be frustrating for the rest of the season for Oklahoma.